The fourth session addresses in detail the topic of qualitative data collection and ethnography. This first video looks at the different paradigms in the social sciences, focusing on the central distinction between the positivist and the interpretative approach. As stated earlier, in the sciences the aim is to gain insights into phenomena, into empirical phenomena. The dominant approach is the so-called positivism, which is anchored in physics, in the natural sciences. It is about identifying cause and effect relationships, and the approach is, in principle, objective. This means that the relationships always apply. They are not limited in space and time. Every researcher who addresses this issue basically always reaches the same conclusion. However, we are in the social sciences, and here the world is not objective, but in many respects, subjective. This is exemplified by the mere fact that the researcher chooses the approach, that different researchers arrive at different results, that the interaction between the objects under investigation and the researcher plays a role when it comes to describing reality. This is why we speak in the social sciences not only of positivism, but also of other paradigms, such as social constructivism. It is not just a matter of describing and explaining reality, but to a certain extent also of constructing reality. On this slide, we see the main differences between the positivist, that is the natural science approach, and the interpretative, that is the social science approach. The natural sciences choose this systematic, empirical quantitative approach where the aim is to objectively grasp cause-effect relationships. Typical methods for this are surveys and experiments. In the social sciences, we want to understand phenomena, perhaps even feel them. Feeling would mean that two researchers arrive at completely different experiences of the same phenomenon. The methodologies for this are, for example, ethnography, phenomenology, and grounded theory, each quite distinct in their procedures for data collection, interpretation, and theoretical development. For example, grounded theory is flexible in terms of data, but insists on theoretical sampling and saturation of both data and theory before theory development can be claimed. It is also a methodology particularly suited to situations that have a symbolic and/or an interactional element to them. Ethnography is generally concerned with culture and power, with the main forms of data being participatory observation and interviews. Finally, phenomenology has its own unique characteristics and philosophy, which may be beneficial in terms of theory building based around lived experiences. This slide provides an overview of the different paradigms. Positivist means it is about objectivity, about the objective recording of a reality. It is about cause-effect relationships. Interpretative means that we construct reality. Every researcher may arrive at a different reality. Often, in the social sciences, it is about understanding, less about predicting facts, which in turn plays a greater role in the positivist approach. The knowledge generated is context independent, time independent, space independent on the positivist side. With the interpretative approach, these things are always very strongly related to the phenomenon. That means they are context dependent, time dependent, and also space dependent. Causality, or cause-effect relationships, are the core issue in positivist approaches. In the interpretative approach, the interplay of several variables, interactions between cause and effect, is certainly allowed. The direction of the effect is often blurred, so there are many uncertainties in the relationship between these variables that are investigated by the researcher. Typically, this positivist approach is also characterized by the fact that the researcher and the subject are different. There is the scientist who analyzes an empirical phenomenon. In the interpretative approach, these things are interrelated. The researcher can take part in an observation. He or she accompanies a subject while shopping in a store, for example. Both communicate with each other. This means that the researcher influences the subject of the study, for example, with regard to which products are bought. The sharp distinction of the positivist approach is not found in the interpretative approach. Thus, we can conclude that we have different approaches to gaining knowledge, to reconstructing knowledge. And the two extremes are the positivist approach and the interpretative approach.